So after having the Oppo Watch slapped on my pasty wrist for the best part of the last fortnight, I've got to say I'm really enjoying it. In fact, it's probably one of the best Wear OS smartwatches of 2020, although that's not to say it isn't without its weird arse quirks. And this beefy 46mm version will cost you a whopping 369 quid as well, so it sure ain't cheap either. Although Oppo has launched a slightly smaller 41mm version that'll cost you 219 quid, which culls some of the features that are slightly less essential. But it is the 46mm version that I've been testing, and the question is it worth that extra cash to upgrade? Well, here's my full Oppo Watch review, and for more of the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So what you get here is a square aluminium casing topped by a 1.9-inch display that curves gently around the left and the right edges. Yes, it does look remarkably similar to an Apple Watch, but to be fair, if you're gonna crib off a rival, you might as well pinch ideas from one of the best looking wearables around. That aluminium casing has proven itself tough enough over the last couple of weeks, no worries, but sadly the screen is susceptible to scratching. In fact, I've got a pretty nasty one down here at the bottom. So I definitely say be careful with the Oppo Watch, and you might want to take it off entirely if you're gonna indulge in any outdoor activity shenanigans, although at least you do have the added reassurance of the 50-meter water resistance. And the Oppo Watch is also light and super comfortable to rock on your wrist indefinitely. That's definitely helped along by the soft rubber strap. And those straps are swappable as well, they just pop right off like so, so you'll be able to change up the look and feel of your wearable once Oppo actually starts offering a range of different straps here in Blighty. And you can also personalise the Oppo Watch with a small but pretty decent selection of faces, most of which are customisable, although often only as far as the colours go. There is a good variety on offer, and of course you can download a shed load more from the Google Play Store if you get bored of that selection. And each of these watch faces has its own always on display option as well, which sports a similar design. This didn't work at all in my unboxing video, but thankfully it sprang to life magically after an update. Now this 46mm watch model boasts a flipping huge 1.91-inch AMOLED screen, and it is an absolute beaut. Those visuals are sharp, so lots of tiny text can be packed onto the display at once, while the colours smack you in the face with their poppy awesomeness. On the maximum brightness levels, I had no trouble seeing the screen outdoors either, although the always on display clock face is far too faint to see in direct sunlight, so you will need to wake the watch to check the time or whatever. And the Oppo Watch is actually powered by the Snapdragon Wear 3100 chipset, not the 3300 or even the fresh new 4100 Plus, but that wasn't really an issue. I found that it wasn't lethargic at all, even when opening apps, flicking through menus, whatever. And the Oppo Watch is absolutely rammed full of features too. All of the stuff you'd expect from a more premium smartwatch is present and correct. With this 46mm version of the Oppo Watch, you do have the option of LTE connectivity via a built-in eSIM, although you will of course have to stump up a bit of extra cash each month for a separate data contract. Sadly, I did not have the chance to test out that feature on the Oppo Watch, but the built-in Wi-Fi worked absolutely no problem whatsoever. It means you can actually download apps direct through the watch without having to go through your smartphone first, things like that. And the Oppo Watch actually has a built-in mic and speaker here on the side as well, so you can actually use it to take calls if you like, and that worked absolutely fine as well. It's not the greatest quality speaker in the world, but you know what, I could hold a phone call, they could hear what I was talking about, I could hear what they were banging on about, job done. Do you still look like a plonker talking at a watch on your wrist as you're walking down the street? Yes, you very much do, but it's handy if you can't be bothered to fumble around in your bag or whatever for your phone. And you should also be able to use the mic to call up the Google Assistant with an OK Google, but I'll be buggered if I could actually get the bloody thing to ever work. OK Google? OK Google? Okay, I swear I've got OK Google detection activated on this thing. It just pays even less attention to me than my bloody 5-year-old. OK Google. And when I do inevitably eventually give up and just tap the assistant microphone instead, it still either just completely ignores what I'm asking it, or else it just comes up with an error message. It's about as much use as a chocolate shotgun. And I've definitely seen a few other bits of quirky behavior on top of that as well. So for instance, the Oppo Watch absolutely loves deactivated features that you've turned on countless times before, like the raise to wake. It loves turning that off pretty much every single frickin' day. And it doesn't wreck the overall experience, but it's definitely not the kind of behavior you would expect from a £300 plus smartwatch. So here's hoping that these little episodes are sorted out in an update very shortly indeed. Thankfully, I had no such trouble when I was using the NFC for a bit of Google Pay action, or when I was using any of those fitness tracking features. On the fitness side of things, you've got GPS built in here, as well as 24-hour heart rate tracking. And that heart rate monitor can also be used for a bit of sleep tracking as well, if that's your bag. I'm not really bothered about it either way. It can basically differentiate between light and deep sleep, but it can't actually tell you anything about your sleeping habits, what you need to do to improve them, anything like that. Very few exercise types are actually offered by Oppo's own tracking app, but you do have the Google Fit on board with dozens of options to suit almost all tastes. You got a 5-minute workouts option here as well, which is actually pretty good if you can't be arsed with a proper session, to at least partly justify that pint and pack of pork scratchings you got saved for later. Unlike most premium wearables, the Oppo Watch's battery life is a bit pants to say the least. It'll basically last you the day, no problem. I found that when I was using the notifications, the fitness tracker, and I had everything activated basically, I would have about sort of 10 to 20% battery life remaining at the end of a busy day. Of course, quite often I forgot to charge it overnight, and so I just bunged it in the charger for about an hour or so in the morning while I made myself look and smell vaguely presentable, and that was enough to power it up pretty much to full. And if you find that you are going to be away from civilization for a while, you can get days and days of battery life if you use the power saver mode. And this uses a secondary Apollo 3 chipset and limits you to read-only notifications, step tracking, and that heart rate monitor. It definitely works a charm, and it's a very good feature to have on board. And that right there is my final review of the Oppo Watch after using it as my full-time wearable for a couple of weeks. And of course I do have my reservations recommending it, but there is a lot to love here, and I reckon that a second generation Oppo Watch could really be a killer Apple Watch rival. If you want a closer in-depth tour of some of the software and the other features as well, go check out my full unboxing, which is live right now, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. It'd be great to hear what you think. Please do poke, subscribe, and ding that notifications bell if you haven't already, and have yourselves a lovely rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!